Hello and welcome to this update on Placemark's thematic mapping capabilities. So this is kind of a big upgrade to what Placemark could do previously in terms of categories and choropleth maps. But anyway, it's easier just to show you than to explain it. So let's just dive in. So I'm going to create a new map, and I'll be starting with like United States states. I found this data set on GitHub of US states in GeoJSON format. And it looks like the easiest way to do that would be to copy it and import it by pasting it onto the map. So here we have our states, some nice outlines provided by that repo. And let's look at what data we have. We have the state's name and we have density, which I'm guessing is population density. So I'll just pop into the symbolization pane, which is now the furthest right pane. And by default, you have uniform symbolization. So this means that all of the features are going to be the same color unless you override them with properties. And let's just change that color. You can just see that you can kind of tweak the default here. But I want to do a visualization of this data. So this is a numeric property, and it's on a scale from something to something. So I'll choose ramp, and then choose the import property, the input property, which will be density. And I'll just use the default ramp. So after generating that, you can see like this is kind of a fun quandary here. It looks like all the states have really low density. Is this a bug? What's going on? So being a longtime DC resident, I guessed that this was the issue. Here's Washington, DC, which is sadly not a state, even though you pay taxes to the federal government. You don't get a vote in Congress. Political rant over. So basically, DC is such an outlier because it's a city and it has very high population density that all of the other states are just, they all swing to the absolute opposite side of the spectrum. So one of the big things that's improved in this new version is handling this problem. So kind of the classic way to handle this problem is that instead of doing linear breaks and taking just the minimum and maximum values in the data set and interpolating between them, you can also use quantile breaks. So I'll do the same kind of ramp generation, but I'll use quantile breaks. And now you can see that even though DC is at the top end of the range, you can still see that the population density of other states is affected here, which is really useful. Like this kind of allows you to see gradations in data, even if there are outliers, is the classic improvement of quantile breaks. And so on top of this, you can also choose a lot of different ramps. So here I'll go for, let's say, this is a continuous data set from 0 to X, so I'll just go for a gray data set. And let's do quantile again with that. And here you can see that, you can kind of change the visualization of this data to align with your data. The visualization to align with, what the attributes of your data are. So the next thing is that previously, you could choose to use inline styles, and then you could choose to visualize your data based on some attribute, but you couldn't do both at the same time. So, for example, let's say that I wanted to outline one of these states. I wanted to really make it punch out, and let's say I am trying to emphasize Texas here. So Texas has a color that's defined by this density property, but I can also override that. So if I go to literal styles here, let's say I want to give that a dark red outline, and I want that to be a 100% opacity outline, and I also want it to be 5 pixels wide, so pretty wide. Now you can see that I can like outline Texas. And you can do this with any other feature. But you can also turn off this ability to use literal styles in data. So you can kind of have either a combination of data-driven styles and literal styles, or you can just have literal styles, or you can just have data-driven styles. Cool. Yeah, so categorization, also the type category works very much the same way. So I'm not going to run through this to keep this video brief. But the one thing that I will run through, because I think it's pretty cool, is that you can now export symbolization. So in this case, I'll go with leaflet. So first, I want to export this data. Let's say I'm taking it here, and I'll go into my leaflet starter directory and call this states.geojson. And then here's this leaflet code. So I'll copy and paste that. So now I'm just going to switch into a text editor. And in this text editor, I have the, you can see that I have this states.geojson file that I just downloaded. And then the other file here is index.html. This is just the leaflet demo of showing how you use GeoJSON data with leaflet. So it isn't a ton of work to add that symbolized style to this map. So you can see that there are a few layers from the tutorial that I'm just going to remove just to simplify things here. Also remove these pop-ups. I'll leave the OpenStreetMap attribution, of course. But here, let's say that I fetch this data. Fetch states.geojson, parse it as JSON. And now I'm going to add that layer to the map. And then this will be the GeoJSON attribute. And I'll remove some of this other stuff that was just for the demo. So I'm losing my voice a little bit. Cool. So now we have this states data set on leaflet. Great. So I think I copied and pasted a few other things since then. So I'll copy and paste this again. And what you can see is that this is this style method. This style kind of takes the ramp that you had before, and it turns it into something that leaflet can use. And I will just use a shorthand there. And now, remove some more of this. And now you can see that you have that same style as leaflet. So this is I think this is a pretty useful feature where you could just pull styles from another source to leaflet. So that pretty much wraps it up in terms of Placemark's new visualization features. You can do the same kind of thing for Mapbox GL expressions, and so you can paste these into Mapbox Studio. And if you're using something like MapLibre, you can also paste them directly into a JSON style. But the whole thing also just works purely in Placemark. So all of these, the symbolization changes will be saved. And so you can share and analyze data within the tool. All right, this is a long one, but yeah, I hope that you enjoy this this new edition. And as always, let me know if you have any feedback. Thanks. Bye.